Today we're going to show you the proper and safe way to replace an air vent. The main purpose of an air vent is to remove air. In my case, I have a hydronic boiler. This boiler uses water, heats up the water, and this is what makes your house nice and warm. What the vent does is it removes any air pockets inside the pipes that carry this hot water. Over time, this vent stops working, and what it actually does is it spews water instead of removing the air. Today, we're going to replace it. So here we have the new Taco air valve, and one thing to note is that the threads on this are 1/4 inch. Your threads might be a little bit different. They might be a little bit bigger. This is the Taco air valve that we're going to replace the old one with. And here we also have the pipe thread sealant. You can use the white tape. I just like to use the pipe thread sealant. I rather use this pipe sealant than the tape because I find it that it's easier to apply to the actual threads. Just remember that all product links are in the description. One very important thing before we begin. If you look at the pressure, my pressure is currently reading 20 psi. We need to bring this down to 0 before we replace the air vent, and I'll show you how to reduce this pressure in this video. Before I begin, I actually like to turn off the emergency switch so there's no thermostat calling for heat. Next, I'm going to turn off the feeder valve as you see here, and then after this I'm going to turn off the return valve. Now that the feeder valve is off, I'm going to turn off the return valve as well, and what this is going to do is isolate the boiler from the rest of the house. And now we are ready to use the pressure relief valve to go ahead and bring that PSI down from 20 to 0. So we have to relieve pressure before we do anything. I'm going to pull up on the pressure relief valve, and this is going to release any water that's left in the boiler. There shouldn't be that much water, but doing this is going to relieve that pressure, in my case going from 20 psi to 0 psi as you see here. Now I did turn off my boiler completely. You actually don't have to do this if you have the emergency switch turned off, as I showed you in the beginning. Now we are ready to install the new air vent. So what I'm doing here is removing the old air vent, and I'm just using my hands to remove it. It wasn't that tight, but if you have to use a wrench, go ahead and use a wrench. In my case, I just had to use my hands and it came off pretty easy. Now, looking at this air vent, you can see it's very crusty, it's old, and again, it was not letting any air out. It was actually just spewing water, which is what you don't want, and there's a reason why we're replacing it. So in my case, this vent was connected to this air scoop that you see here. So wherever your air vent is connected to, just make sure you clean it and remove any old loose threads before you install the new air vent. At this point, we're ready to install our new Taco air valve. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and apply some thread sealant to it. This is what I like to use. You can use the white tape. I like to use this liquid thread sealant. It's important that you apply either thread tape or in my case the sealant, because this is what's going to prevent the air vent from leaking. So you must have either the tape or this thread sealant that I have here on the actual threads before you install it. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just install the air vent, and basically I'm going to turn it by hand clockwise. And when you turn it clockwise, you're going to go ahead and install that and tighten that air vent, in my case to the air scoop that I have here. So go ahead and hand tighten it as much as you can. And what I like about the pipe thread sealant is as I tighten it, you can see that it gets compressed, and this pipe thread sealant is actually going to go ahead and dry up a little bit, and it's going to give you a leak-free vent that you don't have to worry about any water coming out of there. The next thing is on the cap here, you're going to go ahead and turn it counterclockwise to open it up. And this is where the air is actually going to escape from the pipes. So you want to make sure you grab that cap and you turn it counterclockwise. Now what we're going to do is open up our feeder valve. And then once we open up our feeder valve, we're going to go ahead and open up our return valve. Previously, we closed these valves. Now we're going to go ahead and open them, and you can see that that valve was parallel to the pipe. And now if we look at our pressure went from 0 back to 20 psi. It's important that your psi is exactly the same as it was before you started doing this. So make sure that that psi matches what it was in the beginning. If it's not, you can use the feeder valve to go ahead and give it a little bit more water and make sure you bring that psi to what you had in the beginning. And that is pretty much it. We have our new air valve installed. We save ourselves probably anywhere from $400 to $600 by not having to call the plumber. Remember, at this point also, you want to go ahead and turn on your emergency switch, and you want to go ahead and turn on your boiler if you turned it off completely. But this is the way to do it safely and easily, and it's going to save you money. At the end here, we'll do a quick recap of what we did. So the first thing you want to do before you do any work is bring that pressure down to 0. And before we actually start bringing the pressure down to 0, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my emergency switch on my boiler. And then we're going to close the feeder and the return valve. So we close the feeder and the return valve, and now we're gonna go ahead and use the pressure relief valve to remove some water, and then we can go ahead and uninstall our air vent and install the new one with the pipe thread sealant on it. Once we do that, we're gonna go ahead and loosen up the cap on the air vent, and it's gonna go ahead and remove some of that air. So I hope this video has been informative and saved you some money. Go ahead and leave a comment, put a like, and remember to subscribe for more videos.